Well, good morning, and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on this first day of winter. Thank you so much for joining us. We already got our first virtual wave on the program this morning, and perfect timing because we have so much to ask him, so much to dive into, and that's former Congressman Joe Sempolinski. He'll be our guest coming up in just a little bit. Also, I wanted to highlight on tomorrow's program, we'll be talking to a friend that was really on one of the very early broadcasts of Frankly Speaking, and that is Bobby Joe Burdick from Armed Women of America in Steuben County. And I told you about the nice Christmas tree they brought me, and I'll tell you more about that during our interview tomorrow. I have to get right to it because I know Joe's going to join us in just a few moments, and I wanted to go through a few comments that I received yesterday. As always, you can reach out to me there. There's our phone number. You see it on the bottom of the screen, which it's up the whole time as well. And then there is my email. So first up, this is about yesterday's $82.7 million facilities plan that was passed or approved, I guess, for the Corning Panther Post School District on that vote December the 19th, that very convenient day to vote. So one viewer said, it's my turn to be offended. Hey, look at this. I live in a rural area and there was snow on the ground, -1 inch. I think that means an inch, a little less than an inch, making it hard for me to get out and vote. Sarcasm, of course. But I did. The offense, the polling locations. Interesting. It's curious how the polling places are so conveniently located. I realize it was a proposition. However, it makes it super easy for a particular group to participate when they barely have to cross the street. That is a good point. We heard from someone else that had that similar mindset, that it was kept so quiet that really maybe those that worked in the Corning Panther Post School District were the ones most aware of it. That was a comment that we had yesterday, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, because I don't have it in front of me. That is a good point. I would say if that is the case, even they didn't get out and vote that great. What was the number? A little over 600 people in all of the Corning Panther Post School District went out and voted. And of course, the proposition was for $82.7 million on that convenient voting day of December the 19th. We're not going to keep belaboring that point. I think you can read between the lines. Next comment. I appreciate the statement from Nick Langworthy, of course, our congressman, and wholeheartedly agree. We cannot and should not just let the Colorado decision be accepted without question. And I hope that those who still dismiss the facts of election interference in 2020 will now open their eyes and see this for what it is. Regardless of your political position, this absolutely matters and should bother you because you may be next. And that is not the way a strong democracy works. And to that point, and someone else had mentioned it yesterday, and I had mentioned the slippery slope. I didn't put it in this exact context where people said, why not Biden? Could it be Biden next? And you're starting to see Republicans, and I think it's more of a see it could happen to you too. I don't think there's any real serious conversation, but people are saying, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, others, and I don't have them all in front of me, saying, well, look what happened at the border. An open border allowing migrants through, could that be deemed insurrection? Could we play the same game? It's an interesting and fair point, and that's why I think it sets such a bad precedent that this can be misused with whoever's in power. Now you could say, yeah, but if they keep using this, it'll be pretty easy to see who will be empowered. That's fair. That's why I think many agree, and I have heard from some, even I would say not Trump fans, that have also said that this is not the avenue to go down. But we have to take our first break because we've got Joe Sempolinski coming up in just a moment. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Stay with us.
Hot tubs, hot tubs, hot tubs. Hesselson's year-end hot tub clearance is going on now. Over $500,000 of inventory must be sold before year's end, so what better way to start making every day better than today with your very own Hesselson's hot tub. Every hot tub in stock is being drastically reduced to clear out this inventory. Plus, Hesselson's will be offering 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Plus, free cover, free chemicals, and free steps. Don't wait. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Oh, this one is awesome.
Would you like a helmet with your e-bike? Before hitting the road, learn how to control and operate your e-bike and follow the rules.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas, everybody! 1, 2, 3. Merry Christmas!
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And joining me this morning, former Congressman Joe Sempolinski. Hey, Joe.
Hey, I like the festive garland and bows, and you're in the Christmas season, Christmas mentality. I like it.
I know we had a big telethon on Friday for the Salvation Army of Corning.
Oh, I know that's a cause that's very near and dear to your heart. That's very admirable.
Well, good. Yes, it went well, and we had a lot of great music from a lot of great bands. Doc Possum was on.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a bunch of people. You know what, Joe? You're a fan favorite. I tell you this every time. Everybody loves seeing you, and I always love having you on the program. But I've got to be honest, this morning I was disappointed because I clicked on the link that I got in my email. I thought for sure it was a Santos cameo I finally paid for.
Did you get one? Apparently,
I'm waiting.
He has made more money on cameo.
Yes.
Than a year's salary for Congress. And when my wife saw that, she was very disappointed that I've missed some opportunities to provide for my family as an ex-New York congressman. I have not personally purchased any cameos from Mr. Santos.
Yes.
But it is another chapter in the exceedingly bizarre and quite sad, really, saga of George Santos, if that is his real name.
Yeah, well, exactly. And $150 was the first time I saw it. And I'm thinking, who could I or gift this to for Christmas as a joke? Next time I looked, it's like $500, $600.
And apparently he's just sitting around all day doing it. Because the sheer volume that he's putting out to hit the numbers that he's reportedly hitting, he's just sitting around all day doing cameos. He's enough of a oddity to people that they want to get their $500 George Santos video.
And make hay when the sun shines.
It's really a commentary on the status of our politics.
It is. Make hay when the sun shines, because it's not going to last that long, in my opinion. But anyway, we've got more important issues to get to. Number one being, obviously, Colorado and what happened there. We had heard about this for a long time. We know New York tried to do similar, and now there's another kind of a mad push for New York to do it because it was quote-unquote successful. There's something about, Joe, and the irony of judges that aren't elected making this decision, right?
Yeah, this is very troubling.
Yeah.
And I put out a statement on my social media when it came out that if you're kicking the leading candidate for president, so this is a guy that is ahead in all of the polls by a long shot for the Republican nomination, Donald Trump, and a guy who is leading the polling average for the general election. Right. Some polls he's down, most polls he's up. The average, I think, is around, he's up 3 in a head-to-head right now. So you're talking about the person that is the leading candidate for the Republican nomination and the leading candidate to win the general election for the presidency, and saying, no, he can't be on the ballot for something that he not only wasn't convicted of, but he was acquitted of by the United States Senate when held in trial. That is the exact opposite of defending democracy. People are saying, we're going to defend democracy somehow. Removing the person that has the largest support of the people from the ballot. These people need to learn what the definition of the word democracy is. The people are supposed to choose. And just because you don't like who they're going to choose doesn't mean you can't let them choose that person. And by no legal, constitutional mandate, in my opinion, is he not allowed. An insurrection is a very specific thing. If you pick up a gun, that's an insurrection. If you told somebody else to pick up a gun, that's an insurrection.
Right.
None of those things happened, and it was adjudicated in his trial in the United States Senate after the second impeachment, and he was acquitted.
Yeah.
So therefore, you can't kick him off the ballot for something he's been acquitted for and hasn't been convicted of in any other court anywhere else. And none of the people there on January 6th, whether you think what they did was right or wrong, were convicted of insurrection.
Right. I know.
So it's really a very blatant attack on our democratic process. And I sincerely hope, since this affects a federal election, that this will end up in the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court will rule once and for all that, no, you cannot kick Donald Trump off the ballot. If you want to defeat him, either in the primary or the general election, you're going to have to do it by getting more votes than him. That's the way it works in America. And
when Chris Christie's even saying that, something's up, right? But
Christie has been the most never Trump, anti-Trump candidate in the race. And even he is saying this was a bad decision. So this is something that most certainly has unified Republicans, even Republicans for whom Donald Trump's not their cup of tea.
Yeah.
And I think also this is something similar to what you saw when Trump is indicted for things that he's only getting indicted for because he's running for president. This will also affect independent voters.
Yeah, I agree.
Say, wait a minute. This is not the weaponization of our justice system is not something that we want. So I think this actually helps him, just like the indictments helped him in the primary. I think this sort of thing actually helps him even in the general election with independent voters, because it is so blatant and completely unprecedented in the history of our country. Yeah,
I know the New York Post had a piece this morning. Banning Trump from the ballot is Colorado court's gift to the Donald right before Christmas, obviously. But isn't it going to be tough to hear for the next almost a year about threats to democracy after this decision? Because you've already seen it. You've got Vice President Harris running on abortion, and you're going to have Biden out there talking about threat to democracy. I mean, we could have predicted that a year ago.
Yeah, Biden, I saw a tweet from, we still call them tweets, an X.
An X, yeah.
A post. I saw a post from the President Biden, saying, there's all these reasons why I don't like Donald Trump, but the real reason is the threat to democracy.
Right.
Well, that argument gets less and less potent the more that his Department of Justice, other liberal prosecutors, or liberal courts now in Colorado are clearly blatant threats to democracy. So if that's what you want to run on, maybe stop being a threat to democracy yourself. It's really, I think that argument gets weaker and weaker as each new attempt to destroy Donald Trump, because the left can't stand him, gets rolled out.
All right, we got to take our first break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with the former Congressman Joe Semplinsky. After this, stay with us.
Hot tubs, hot tubs, hot tubs. Hesselson's year-end hot tub clearance is going on now. Over $500,000 of inventory must be sold before year's end, so what better way to start making every day better than today with your very own Hesselson's hot tub. Every hot tub in stock is being drastically reduced to clear out this inventory. Plus, Hesselson's will be offering 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Plus, free cover, free chemicals, and free steps. Don't wait. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Oh, this one is awesome.
Would you like a helmet with your e-bike?
Before hitting the road, learn how to control and operate your e-bike and follow the rules.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas, everybody! 1, 2, 3. Merry Christmas!
Right now. No, we're going to go on anyway. That's all right. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we've got on Zoom this morning the former congressman. Joe, we have so much else to cover, but can we stick with Colorado for just a moment?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So we talked about it being a gift to Trump. I was reading this morning, Ann Coulter actually thinks people that are upset over this, and I don't always get Ann Coulter on this. I think she likes the role as contrarian a little bit too much. She says we're playing in the Democrats' hands. They're doing these things because they think that Trump's easily beatable by Biden.
And I think I think she is saying what the Democrats think.
Right.
I don't know if it's accurate. And you saw when the indictment, first time that Trump gets indicted, and you can go back and look at Real Clear Politics, where they have the polling average.
Right.
I think Trump was up on DeSantis like 15 the first time he's indicted. And now he's up like 55 or something like that.
Right.
So that was really the moment where the primary polls broke open for Trump. And it caused a rally around the flag a martyr effect, where you had a certain percentage of people in the Republican primary electorate that just loved Donald Trump and they were voting for him. And then the next chunk was people that, they like him. They probably voted for him, but they were looking to move on.
Maybe somebody else, sure.
And then they saw what they were doing to Trump, and it rallied folks around Trump. Now, I think the Democrats' logic is what Coulter is saying, that, we're going to give him the nomination and then we'll beat him in the general.
Right.
The question is that last portion of the logic true?
Right.
Is he actually weak in the general? Now, polling shows, the current polling shows, and it's been pretty consistent for the last couple months, Trump is actually a stronger general election candidate than DeSantis is.
Exactly.
He appears to be weaker than Haley is in the general election, but he's certainly stronger than DeSantis. And also, the polling has moved in the general election more and more in Trump's direction. Where he was down a couple points pretty consistently, and now he's up 2 or 3 points pretty consistently. And it gets better when you put Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Cornel West and Jill Stein on the ballot. And they probably are going to be on the ballot. So now you're talking Trump's up 4 or 5.
Right.
So they may have outthunk themselves
on
the left.
Right.
All right, we got this guy. We can beat their election. Let's, ensure that he gets the nomination because they're worried about Haley or DeSantis or Scott or whoever. And then suddenly they have revived Trump's political prospects to such a degree. And I think they forgot the independent voters, and I mentioned them in the last segment. Right. Where independent voters, they can go either way, right, politically, but they generally want things to be calm, steady, and fair, right? And certainly things are not calm and steady under Biden. The inflation problem, and they can crow all they want about inflation's down, that just means it's growing a little bit slower. The prices are still going up. They're not going back down to where they were. And somehow they can't wrap their minds around that, which is insane. Right. So you already have major economic problems. You already have chaos around the world in Israel and in Ukraine, which a lot of people, and I think correctly, trace back to our failed withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, your average independent voter goes, maybe they don't like Donald Trump that much. But they go, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you really think this guy would be under indictment if he wasn't running for president of the United States? Exactly. Do you really think somebody should be kicked off a ballot just because you don't like them? That's not what America's all about. No. And so you've made him a acceptable choice by making him a martyr, and you presented a world that is on fire. Right. And suddenly independent voters are breaking for Donald Trump, and the Democrats suddenly can't figure out why, even though you or I just described it. Yeah. 20 seconds. Exactly. And that's the status of the brain trust of the Democratic Party. Exactly. And I'm not crazy about anecdotal, like this person talked to me or this person, but it is kind of shocking how many people said, man, I was looking at maybe even like a Nikki Haley, because we'll get to that in a moment, because the media is just telling us, like the Jeb Bush theory, the only way we can win is with Nikki Haley. And I that red flags. But, they're looking at DeSantis or Nikki Haley, and then they see something like Colorado or one of the indictments, and they'll tell me, I didn't want to vote for this guy. I got no choice now. And I think you're seeing a lot of that. And these are people that
aren't that big fans of Trump. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I think what the polling would indicate is that is the narrative for about 20 or 30% of the Republican Party. That they were looking to move on. They liked Ron DeSantis. They liked Nikki Haley. Maybe they liked somebody else. They thought Trump's time was past. And then they see what they've done to him, and they rally around Trump. That is not a insignificant portion of the Republican Party. You're probably talking about a quarter to a third of the Republican Party. That's where their heads at, and certainly enough to solidify a very commanding lead for Donald Trump going into the Iowa caucus.
And I love that. I was on CNN this morning, and they said Trump's creating just the kind of legal chaos he wants for 2024. Like now this is what he wanted the whole time. I mean, it's almost like they're trying to like twist it, like you were saying. Maybe they bit off a little more they can chew.
Yeah.
And now it's Trump's fault.
That's a common liberal media narrative.
Yeah.
Where like, somebody on the left does something ridiculous,
right?
And then the headline is right wingers attack.
Yes, I know.
Democrat for
whatever
killing somebody.
Yeah, right.
Well, no, the story should be what that person did, whether they're left or right.
I know.
The story shouldn't be, see, now the right wing they're taking advantage of it. They're attacking. That is
You're dead on.
A very common template for a headline in the Washington Post or the New York Times.
Exactly. Do you think it'll be successful in New York with this? I mean, if the Democrats are starting to push it again, you know how New York is. They're almost like, oh man, these guys beat us to a stupid idea.
Right.
Darn it.
Yeah, there's this mindset in the Democratic Party in New York that they have to be first.
Yeah,
they have to be the tip of the spear for being the most liberal. And if anybody else does, I think you saw that with the pretty ridiculous reparations.
Yeah, I hope we can get to that.
So that came from California first.
And which was a dismal failure in California.
Yeah, right. And it came out with ridiculous.
Do you think Gavin Newsom wanted to come out and say, we can't afford this after the study?
I mean,
no.
I think to some degree, there may be some internal gamesmanship within the Democratic Party where you give the far left what they want, knowing they're going to be so ridiculous that you can sort of ignore.
Yeah,
what comes back.
That's a good point.
There may be a little bit of that. I don't know. I hope that's maybe a little bit of that. Because otherwise, we're going to have a very expensive situation coming down the pipeline here.
But you're right. I mean, so New York just follows, and they're kind of upset. But one thing before we go to break, and I do got to take another break, you mentioned about how Biden is trying to spin inflation. And I've been thinking about this story for a while now. Talk about what must be the most difficult sell in the world, which is to say, no, actually inflation isn't that bad right now, because all it takes is that person who may want to believe it go, well, thanks, President Biden, and then they go to the grocery store, and then they go, or they get that bill.
An analysis, and I would cite them if I could.
Yeah.
I'm not the president of Harvard, I think, but it was sort of describing that inflation is really perverse and really devastating for a president because it affects everybody.
Yeah.
There are other economic circumstances, whether it's unemployment or some localized crisis where it affects a very discrete portion of people. You can be rich,
right,
and still be ticked about inflation because if you're a regular person like you or me going to McDonald's and go, oh my goodness, this hamburger's ridiculous. If you're a rich guy, you go into the steakhouse and you go, oh my goodness, this steak is ridiculous.
Exactly.
So it cuts across every single person. There's not a single person that wants to pay more for whatever it is that they go about buying.
Exactly.
And even if inflation goes to zero, the prices are still up.
Yes.
Compared to where they were pre-pandemic or pre-Biden administration. So unless they go down or there's enough time for people to sort of adjust their expectations, he's in deep trouble. And I don't think there's enough time between now and the election for those expectations to change. Every time I go and buy fast food, and sadly I buy a lot of fast food, I get sticker shock.
Yeah.
I go, this is ridiculous. I thought this is $5 more than I thought it was going to be.
I actually get, and I'm just as much to blame as everybody else, but it almost gets tedious how many conversations you have in a day, you, me, whoever, saying, I went to lunch, it cost me $16. And I went here, and you're talking to everybody, and they're agreeing with you and telling your story. But that's how bad it is when everybody, no matter who it is, talks about something in a negative way. It's not good to run against it or run.
And I mean,
with
my
it.
Family, we would maybe go out to dinner once a week,
right?
And now it's more like once a month.
Exactly.
And it's purely because it's not that we don't like the restaurant,
right?
It's that it's just
that bad.
expensive.
Yeah. And then you figure Christmas time where it hurts so many the most. And that's why, look at this plug, that's why we did so much for the Salvation Army this year. Because we know people are hurting.
We got to help the folks.
That's right. All right, we got to take another short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with the former congressman. Stay with us.
Hesselson's, your one-stop shop for all of your clothing and footwear needs this holiday season. Hot finger ski gloves, cold-proof long underwear, merino wool socks, men's and ladies are all in stock with savings throughout the entire store. Carhartt jackets, insulated bibs, and hooded sweatshirts are all available in all sizes and colors. Work boots, western boots, hikers, and loggers, all in stock from the biggest names in the industry. Carolina, Thurgood, Danner, Ariat, Ovos, and Loa. When it comes to clothing and footwear this holiday season, think Hesselson's. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Every piece of land has a story, written by those who work it. Like the Caggianos, who are brewing their own legacy. Or the Upshaws, who DIY all the time. While the Nelsons play lead in their own adventure, 150 years in the making. There's a story in every piece of land. Run with us and start telling yours.
It's a Black Friday special at Lindsay Equipment. For a limited time, get 0% financing for 72 months on select John Deere models.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks are a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen One, the portable oxygen concentrator you can take almost anywhere.
With this little device, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
The Inogen One is so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen One for 30 days completely risk-free. Give us a call right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days completely risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen One system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 1-800-929-7290. Again, that's 1-800-929-7290.
Getting aerial video for a commercial used to be extremely expensive, but not anymore. WYDC TV Big Fox now offers the Twin Tiers amazing aerial video for your business. We do it with our state-of-the-art drone and commercially licensed aerial pilot. Beautiful HD aerial video and pictures custom-made for your commercial. Call or email now to advertise on Big Fox TV and let everyone see your business in a whole new way.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking with that beautiful view of Marcus Street where the Hesselson studio is located. We're broadcasting live from there. I'm your host, Frank Akam, and on the line, Joe Sempolinski. Joe, let's get away from Colorado. I think we're all upset about it, but I think there's so much more to talk about. I'm sure a lot of people are screaming at their television and saying, why would you not ask Joe Sempolinski about redistricting? But I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait on that for a second because we were talking about it before. Biden having to run on inflation. Poll numbers are dismal. I mean, really, when you have Axelrod and others coming out and saying, we better start paying attention.
Yeah.
That's troubling. But what do you see on the Republican side? Because, boy, the media wants to push Nikki Haley.
Yeah, I mean, what is sort of the analogy I've seen, there's a meme out there, and it's a screenshot of a YouTube, and it's the basketball player Chris Paul, and it says, Chris Paul hits a monster 3 to cut the lead to 42.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I think of with Haley in the sense that she has legitimate momentum.
Yes.
Like if you see the polls, she is moving up, and where it's getting into the range of concern for Donald Trump is in New Hampshire, right? And the thing that's actually holding her back in New Hampshire for getting in striking distance to Donald Trump is Chris Christie.
Right.
If Chris Christie wasn't there, she'd be only down like 3 or 4.
The irony.
New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So the Haley effect is real, especially vis-a-vis her and DeSantis, where DeSantis is just cratering across the board, and Haley is making up and going into that number 2 slot. Now, other than New Hampshire, she's still down 30.
I know that's
Iowa. She's still down 50.
I know.
Nationwide. So to hit the series of things that would have to happen to truly make this a race is unlikely. I think it is far more likely than not that Donald Trump is the Republican nominee.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would say this, that the only other person that you could even construct a story that ends up with them as a nominee is Haley. DeSantis appears to be cooked.
Mm-hmm. Chris Christie's just still vying for that job at MSNBC, the Joe Scarborough effect.
I don't know what he's thinking, because what he gets in the race,
mm-hmm.
and his whole reason for his campaign is, we got to stop Donald Trump. Right?
Yeah.
And him being in the race
is actually helping.
Does nothing but make it more likely that
mm-hmm.
Trump becomes the nominee.
It's his ego.
The vote.
It's his ego. He loves this. He loves this attention.
I think that's exactly what it is. I think with Christie, it is entirely a ego trip.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because again, every action he is taking makes his stated purpose
mm-hmm.
less likely. Therefore, either he is stupid, and I don't think he's stupid.
No.
Or this is purely about he couldn't live without the attention.
I think that's
a presidential candidate or a governor, and he is getting his last fix.
Yeah.
Because he's an addict.
It really feels like. Do you think he turns on the nightly news and he sees Liz Cheney and he's like, that should be me? Because Liz Cheney gets the same, it's the same attention. Hey, here's a Republican that will badmouth a Republican. Right. Bring him in here.
Right. Yeah, the media loves that.
Oh, they love it.
Republicans who badmouth Republicans. Yeah. Personally, I believe in generally the 11th commandment that Reagan had.
Yes.
You shouldn't bash another Republican.
Mm-hmm.
I guess unless when absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
But you sort of find a way to deal with it within the family
mm-hmm.
as best you can.
I agree.
And Chris Christie is certainly not somebody that is following that as far as Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
That's his choice, I guess. But again, he's taking 10% of the vote in New Hampshire, and Haley's down like 15.
Yeah.
So
what are you doing?
Are you really? What's this really about?
Exactly.
You like having your name on the sign and being on TV, don't you?
That's what it is. And it's interesting. I know I've talked about it with you before. I don't have any ill will towards Nikki Haley. I like Nikki Haley. In a different world, I might have voted for Nikki Haley. But boy, and maybe I'm just naive. Whenever I see, the CNNs of the world saying she's got a chance, or, some Democrat who never wants to see us ever win an election again, tell you and me, you know what, the only way you can win is Nikki Haley. That scares me.
Well, to me, it's kind of like the effect I think of where now that the boogeyman is Donald Trump for the media, right? Now they talk about, how great John McCain was.
Yes.
Or, how great George W. Bush was.
Yeah.
Or whoever.
Jeb.
And then if you flash back to when they were running,
mm-hmm.
they were presented by the media as if they were the devil.
Really?
And it's just whoever the most threatening
mm-hmm.
Republican is,
mm-hmm. anybody
that is opposed to that one suddenly becomes a good guy again.
Exactly.
In the crazy narrative world of the media. So I would say people are reacting to the fact that she's the only one that has any semblance of
mm-hmm.
upward momentum. It's kind of like, I think a few months ago we talked about Ramaswamy mania.
Whatever they call it.
My answer was, well, all right, he's moving up, but he's at 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's sort of how I feel about Haley. We're like, listen.
Can't take it away from her.
Moving up.
Yep.
No one else is moving up.
Right.
She's made progress. But she's still a mile behind.
I know.
Everywhere. And the only place where she's maybe, you could squint and see, I see a path to victory, is in New Hampshire.
Right.
In Iowa. Even in South Carolina.
Yeah.
She was the governor of South Carolina. She's still down 20 points there or whatever it is. So, yes, she's doing well. Yes, she's going to get that second place spot very quickly here. I think in the overall average, she's down like 0.2 to DeSantis now. She's about to catch him. She's going to catch him. But does it really matter in the long term?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Who knows? I saw a piece. We got to go to break, but I saw a piece. This is a little while ago. I think it was David Axelrod, but don't quote me. So they're going through great news for Nikki Haley. And I read this whole thing. It's like 2 pages. And then here's the bad news. Like at the end, here's the bad news. Oh, she's down by 40% nationwide.
Right.
And you're like,
that's a big butt.
I'm like, maybe lead with that.
40 points. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I would have led with that. But we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Turned down for Social Security disability? Help is here.
Let us get you the Social Security disability check you deserve.
Call the law firm of Betts & Burrill now, 888-333-1599.
We know how to fight for your rights. Social Security disability is complex. Put our experience to work for you, and there's no fee until we put money in your pocket.
Denied Social Security disability? Call the law firm of Betts & Burrill at 888-333-1599.
We are proud to serve our country, to serve our local communities, to wear the uniform, to be a soldier, to serve abroad when and where duty calls. We are ready to stand with our brothers and sisters to defend, to serve, to fight. We're always ready, we're always there. We are the New York Army National Guard.
Tired of a pan that always sticks? It's so scratched and worn, you can't cook in it.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new hammered pans from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before. Hammered pans are ultra non-stick and they're even oven safe up to 500 degrees. So bake homemade chicken pot pie or this whole chicken dinner. Use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips right out. Plus the entire set is dishwasher safe and PFOA free.
Get the full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. But order now and we'll drop 1 payment. That's just 4 payments of $49.99. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and strainer, and our 5-piece bakeware set with every pan you'll ever need to make delicious breads, cakes, and desserts. That's a huge 15-piece set with free shipping. Call or click now.
Call 1-800-608-1538 or go to buyhammered.com.
The holiday season has arrived, a time where more than ever our thoughts turn gratefully to those who have made our progress possible. We here at Big Fox TV would like to thank you for being our viewers. We wish you all the warmth and goodwill of the season and every happiness throughout the new year. This holiday greeting is also brought to you by caring businesses in the community, our friends at Corning Building Company, Carapella's Collision, and Cutler's Carpet and Flooring. And again, all of us at Big Fox TV.
We're getting in the holiday spirit. That's a beautiful view of Marcus Street. And this is the Hesselson Studio. I'm Frank Acom. This is Frankly Speaking. Joe Sempolinski is on the line. Joe, obviously I've got to ask you, because if there's anyone that should know this like the back of his hand, it's redistricting. I'm sure you've been getting a lot of questions on that.
Both from the public and from the media, and everybody's like, well, who cares about redistricting? Who followed redistricting? Suddenly they call me.
Yeah.
This is a very troubling decision.
Yes.
And it's not just the decision, it's how it was reached, because the governor attempted to appoint a new chief judge who was a liberal, but was viewed as sort of a fair judge. And the far left said, no, we want the person that wrote the dissent in the last redistricting decision. So now that's the chief judge. And by the way, that was the first time under our current system that any Court of Appeals nomination from a governor was rejected. So it was unprecedented.
Right.
That creates another vacancy. He was already on the court. They appoint somebody that was considered to be a moderate Democrat, sort of a swing vote. She recuses herself, refuses to say why, even though you have to say why when you recuse yourself. You say, oh, it's because the plaintiff's my brother-in-law or whatever.
Sure.
She doesn't. Just gets out of the way. She was going to be the swing vote. The other protocol is there are 7 justices on the Court of Appeals. The quorum is 5 under their rules, and if you still have a quorum, you normally don't replace anybody that's not there. Or they replaced her with a very liberal judge from the appellate division, the lower division. So this entire thing was cooked. From the get-go. It is a devastating result, not only for the Republican Party nationwide, but actually for fairness, and a devastating result for the prestige of the New York State Court of Appeals.
I agree.
Which has long been considered the most prestigious non-federal court in the country. Well, not anymore.
Right.
And so what this ruling does is it says we have to basically unpause the commission process from the last time, restart, and it's a second map, because they've submitted one map and they hadn't submitted a second map. So a second map needs to be submitted to the legislature no later than February 28th. Now, this is a little bit tricky timing because petitions start for Congress on February 27th.
Yeah.
So if they do this quickly, things may go according to schedule, but if they push it to the end, we may see a delayed or a split primary process again, just like we did in 2022. Remember, I was telling everybody to vote in August.
Yeah.
We may be doing that again. So what will happen is the commission will come up with another map, be sent to the legislature. Everyone expects the legislature to reject it and pull out the map that they've wanted all along, whatever that is. And currently we have 10 Republicans from New York. Until very least recently, we had 11. So we have 10 now.
Yeah.
So there's 10 seats that either we hold or very recently held. We'll find out what happens with that 11th seat in February with special election. That'll be on the current line.
Sure.
So it isn't affected. There's probably 12 seats that you consider as winnable because there's also another swing seat we don't hold. And they're going to look to take it down to, I'm guessing, 5. Because they pushed it to 4 last time and it got thrown out as a gerrymander. So I'm guessing they'll try and take it down to 5. So you're talking about a massive net swing. If you lose 5, they get 5. That's a net swing of 10, potentially. That dramatically increases the chances that the Democrats take the House of Representatives in the 2024 election. So it's bad process. It's blatantly unconstitutional in the sense of you can't be drawing gerrymanders. That's banned by the state constitution.
Right.
The only recourse is once the map comes out. It is guaranteed now at this point we're going to get a new map.
Right.
We just don't know what it's going to be. When it comes out, then the Republicans can sue and say, oh, this new map is a gerrymander, which, as I said, it was banned under the state constitution. But eventually it ends up in front of this same cooked Court of Appeals.
Right.
So it's something within your listener area.
Yeah.
What they're going to do, since that's already a very Republican district, is probably just put more Republicans into it.
Right.
But as far as nationwide, it is catastrophic.
Yes.
For the Republican Party.
Well, all the articles I was reading was saying, well, this last election, there was a highly competitive race. As I'm reading them, I'm going, isn't that what they want? Isn't that what it should be? But they were almost using that to justify. The
special master had several criteria he was supposed to use, but there was no distinction in the Constitution of how he had to prioritize those criteria that he had to use. And he chose, rightly or wrongly, to make drawing competitive districts his priority. And so we have far more competitive districts than we've ever had in the state of New York. And as you said, that's sort of what, don't they want competitive districts where it could go either way and it's the will of the people at that moment? And you have competitive districts throughout the Hudson Valley, on Long Island, and central New York. And the goal is going to be to take those districts that are either even or D+1 or D+2 and make them unwinnable for Republicans purely to grab power.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, the Democrats are complaining because the Republicans are redistricting in North Carolina.
Right.
And so it's purely everything's hypocrisy.
It really is. And I think at this time, it's always a good idea to confuse voters, right? Just make it a miserable mess.
Right. That's another piece of it.
Yes.
Where everybody, and that's been the question I've gotten. I've had a lot of people call me, people that are savvy people.
Right.
That are political people. What is this? What's going on? And other media outlets that are savvy media outlets.
Right.
You need to explain this to me. And, this is part of the effect of this is it is so confusing. And you may have people, there are certain parts of the state where you may end up that they've had 4 different congressional candidates in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Because they had one and then they had the new map and then the next map and this map. And you may have 4 different names. And for your average citizen who, wants to figure out who they're going to vote for and go vote.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
It's an absolute mess. And it is another sort of erosion on our institutions, especially the court as an institution, but the House as well.
Yeah, we got to take a short break, but there was nothing more fun than trying to explain back when you ran, Joe, and how that, I'm sure you got it a lot more than me, but sitting down and going, here's my graph.
Guy he won an ad for best radio ad of the entire cycle because he was able to explain it in 30 seconds.
Yeah,
that's why he's good.
Which is about impossible. It's very impressive anyway. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
This right here is confidence in a bottle.
It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to family and everybody.
All right, Big Fox, WYDC. We love you. Happy holidays, and we always sparkle, baby.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Happy holidays. And have a good night, honestly.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Merry Christmas.
We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We're going to turn down our Christmas music there. We got Joe Sempolinski on the line. Joe, I meant to ask this before the last break, but I definitely wanted to get... Did I not go to you? Why did I go to Roof? I wanted to ask you this because we received this from a viewer. What would you harp on the most if you were to sit down and have a strategy session with the RNC? Maybe harp is a little loaded of a word.
I mean... The RNC's had some issues. I know I saw their latest financials, and they have far less money on hand than they usually do this time of year, like dramatically less. And I think from what I've heard from people, there's been concern, rightly or wrongly, that they don't do enough to sort of engage regular people and get people registered and that sort of thing. So I would certainly agree that's something they could focus on. They're in an interesting role, because they have some very defined things where they have to run the convention to nominate the president. They have to coordinate things for the presidential election. But unlike some of the other committees, the NRCC or the NRSC or the others, where it's sort of there's always something coming up next, they have these down periods between presidential elections where I think they probably could do more to be like, all right, we got to get small dollar donors engaged. We got to get people registered as Republicans or registered to vote at least, and those sort of things. And that's sort of what I've heard from people, that's where their concern is. And I think that's where you lead to the money problems, where people are like, well, let's give the money directly to the presidential candidate that I like, or to the congressman that I like, or the senator that I like, or those sort of things. So they have this big apparatus, and I think people feel that maybe they could do more to lay the groundwork for the presidential election coming up.
Sure. Well, thank you for that question from that viewer. You can always reach out with the numbers on the bottom of the screen there. We talked quickly about it, probably about it enough, but the reparations, there was two pieces today. One from the New York Post is New York's exodus won't stop until the state reverses its ever leftward course. Another one similar. I don't see the end game in this, because to me it's just going to create such bad feelings, across the board, from beginning really to end.
Yeah, I mean, the exodus was demonstrated with the latest projections for the next census came out, and New York is currently projected to lose 3 more congressional seats.
Wow.
And second only to California. California, New York, and Illinois combined are projected to lose 9 total congressional seats. So it shows you where people are leaving.
Yes.
These big liberal states, and the states that are going to pick up a combined 7 are Texas and Florida. So that's where the migration is happening in the country. It's not a right-wing talking point. It's just the truth. Reparations, I mean, slavery was outlawed in New York State in 1827.
Right.
So it has been almost 200 years since anybody was a slave under New York State law, or anybody owned a slave under New York State law.
Of course.
So you're going to have money potentially being transferred from people that have never owned slaves, people that never were slaves. And then the other piece that I've had some people point out to me over the last couple of days, which I think if you're going to do a calculation on what people are owed,
right,
tens of thousands of New Yorkers died fighting for the Union in the Civil War.
Exactly.
So their and then tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands more had injuries, traumas, had to live with the scars of the Civil War for the rest of their lives. So if we're going to pull out a ledger,
right,
is that going to be part of the thing that is saying, well, wait a minute, has that chunk of it already been paid?
Exactly.
Because that's a big piece of money if you want to monetize that. That many lives and that many lives destroyed, even if they weren't killed. So when you start going down this path, you sort of open up Pandora's box. And as you said, the practical real world results is just more ill feeling. So
more
if we want to
divide
come together as a state and say something like, oh, we should do something that's forward looking with like scholarship programs or for people who are in some sort of disadvantaged community, or making sure that our schools are equitably funded, or making sure that nobody falls through the cracks, left behind because of their economic status or their race or any other criteria. Well, I think then the vast majority of people will be on board with that. It's forward looking. But to sort of punish people who never committed a crime and reward people who never were in the status of bondage, I think is a misguided attempt to deal with current social issues, and is clearly an attempt by the governor to appease her far left wing so she can stay governor.
Right. Well, exactly. It makes me upset when you see something like this that's designed to divide us in this country even more, and the state even more, obviously, because that's the last thing we need at this moment.
Right. And then when the results come out, and they're going to probably be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because the California ones were
outrageous.
Ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
That it didn't really go anywhere.
Right.
I'm curious as to then what are the dynamics within the Democratic Party? How much pressure is there on moderate Democrats to do something that's clearly going to hurt them? And so the political side of it is going to be rather interesting, mostly within the Democratic Party. But there are better ways to make a more just society than this particular mechanism would do.
I agree. We got to take our last break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Has hernia mesh surgery left you with pain, cramping, bowel disorder, even more surgery? Signs a bad product may have been used, and you deserve cash for your pain.
A jury has just awarded $41 million to a hernia mesh victim. So call now.
Call the law firm of Betts & Burrill, 855-656-8444.
You may be suffering from a defective product.
855-656-8444, and get the money you deserve.
You learn pretty fast that there are no shortcuts in racing or in life. So it's no surprise that there aren't any when it comes to hair loss either. One of my first attempts to deal with my own hair loss was a literal shortcut. Thankfully, my wife found Hair Club. I thought that nobody could understand how mortified I was to be losing my hair. So you can imagine how relieving it was to know that Hair Club's experts have already helped so many people with their hair loss. I was shocked that Hair Club had virtually every solution possible. If I had known about Hair Club sooner, I never would have tried any of those overhyped advertised solutions.
With over 120 locations, Hair Club is North America's largest provider of complete hair loss solutions. Whether you choose surgical, non-surgical, or restorative solutions, Hair Club has you covered.
If you're determined to get your hair back and live the life you deserve, just call Hair Club. You can get your own free personalized consultation with a hair loss expert and be on your way to the finish line in no time. Call now.
Call Hair Club now to schedule a free consultation and save 20% on select solutions using promo code Frankie. 800-205-44.
Oh, here we go. Look at that. We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Joining us, we have Joe Sempolinski. There we go, Joe. All right, Joe. A couple quick things that I just learned about this morning. I think it should be a huge story, but I can't tell you for sure if it is. That China's president warned Biden in no uncertain terms he plans to take Taiwan by any means necessary.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's very bad.
For a variety of reasons. One, Taiwan's our ally, and they have been for a very long time. And two, unlike some other places in the world, I mean, China is a real existential threat to our way of life.
Yes.
They are antithetical to freedom. They are a totalitarian, communist, brutal, genocidal regime. And I've said this for many years. In 100 years, the world is either going to be a lot more like America, as a democratic, Republican type form of government, and it seemed after the fall of the Cold War that democracy was on the march, or the world is going to be more like China, this authoritarian, totalitarian, freedom-crushing type of regime. And they play the long game.
Yes.
Now, they have some serious economic problems and some serious demographic problems in their country, so they're not this gargantuan monolith. They've got issues too, but they're certainly by far our biggest threat. And for them to be saying that sort of thing, it just shows you the dictator of China doesn't say those sort of things if he views the American president as strong.
Exactly.
And after what we saw in Afghanistan, there's no way he views the American president as strong. And frankly, I don't think Putin invades Ukraine.
I agree.
If we don't butcher Afghanistan withdrawal. So
100%.
the president being weak can lead to very dangerous, very deadly long-term consequences, and we're seeing that right now. Now,
away from the international front, let's go to the local front. How's everything going locally, and how can people get involved, Joe?
Yeah, so we had some pickups in Suwannee County. In the last election, the Hornell City Council went from 8-2 Republican to 9-1 Republican. And bear in mind, that's a city that until just a couple of years ago, we had never, and I mean never, had a Republican majority on that city council. And now to be at 9-1.
Amazing.
You told somebody that 15, 20 years ago, they'd never believe it. The city of Hornell. So kudos to John Buckley, Paul Van Castle, the entire Republican team in Hornell. The county legislature, we came in up 14-3. We ended the election up 15-2.
Oh, great.
We picked up a seat in Wayland, Cohocton. Shannon won up there.
Great.
And she defeated by 35 points, defeated the Democrat incumbent by 35 points. This is a guy that served, I believe, 5 terms on the legislature in 2 different chunks.
Yeah.
He served it in the 80s, 90s, and then came back. But a very name brand Democrat up in Wayland, Cohocton, and gets defeated by 35 points.
That's crazy.
To grow our Republican majority in the county legislature up to 15-2. The only 2 are the 2 from Corning. So Corning was a little bit rougher spot. There we were on the march. There we were trying to pick up seats, so we didn't take any steps back. No seats were conceded. But a couple of the ones we were hoping to get, we didn't get. So Corning, outside of Corning, Suwannee County has never been more Republican. Inside Corning, we've got a good team there. We're going to continue to push forward. But I think that's where we're going to have to focus because we won everywhere else.
I know. And people have to get involved because I know it's Christmas time. No one wants to hear this, but before we know it, it's going to be petition time.
Yeah, I mean, petitions start, as I mentioned earlier in the show, February 27th.
That's wild.
By having the early primary, if it stays there.
Yeah.
We'll see. By having the early primary means petitions are very short. The first 2 weeks of petition time are before the clocks change.
Yeah.
And so people tend to be home.
Yeah.
If you're able to get out and get to them. But if people want to get involved, this is the perfect time to get involved. And you can always message me on my Facebook page or what have you. And this is leading into an important election year. Obviously, the presidency.
Right.
And then we have Senator Gillibrand's seat that's up.
Yep.
Statewide. That's our one statewide. And then local, what we'll be passing petitions for is Congress, State Senate, State Assembly, Sheriff, County Judge, and some local offices.
Well, Joe, we are out of time. Thank you for giving us so much time, and let me say Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you and your whole family and all of the listeners. I hope everybody's having a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and is with the people that they care the most about. That's what the season needs to be about, is spending time with family and remembering what God's given us.
I agree. Joe, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Frank.
All right. Join us tomorrow, 7 o'clock for Frankly Speaking.